Moving on now to some other news. The Commission for Gender Equality is expected to release the findings of an investigation into KwaZulu-Natal's controversial bursaries for virgins program. The uThukela district municipality sparked outrage in January when details of its Maiden bursary program emerged. The bursary provides funding for young women on condition that they undergo regular virginity testing and remain virgins. So far, a reported 16 young females are beneficiaries of the bursary scheme. The uThukela district municipality says it created the so-called virgin bursaries to deter young women from getting involved with older men. Meanwhile, the scheme has been met with widespread condemnation from civil society. Gender equality groups have lambasted the bursary fund as traumatic, invasive, unscientific and sexist. The bursary scheme has also been accused of breaching the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act. And joining us live from the newsroom to unpack the story a little bit further is our ANN7 reporter, Nera Hlakotsa. Nera, thanks so much. Can you give us a brief background on the criteria of the bursary, what it's offering and why it was created?
Good morning to you. Of course, we do know that the Maiden bursary did cause a lot of misunderstandings with people, and we saw people basically slamming the bursary scheme itself. But we also remember that in KwaZulu-Natal, the KZN government did come basically saying that this is not such a bad idea, and their aim is just to empower women and basically to show young women that they do not need to have sex at an early age, and they need to be prepared. In a nutshell, they were saying that a school needs to come first. But we've heard, of course, groups that have come out against this, saying this is another way to basically oppress women. They were saying, of course, that young women are once again being oppressed and they shouldn't be exposed to such. And if it's done to young women, so should it be done to young men as well. But of course, also you need to remember that the virginity testing was just among some of the recommendations for these young women to get bursary. It was not only solely based on the virginity testing. But of course, today we are expecting to hear what the Commission itself thinks about this act. And of course, we'll hear how this needs to be rendered, or this needs to be corrected for that matter.
Now, Neria, have we made contact with these 16 young female beneficiaries of the bursary? How do they feel about this? Do they feel that they are empowered or oppressed?
One thing that needs to be clear and put out there is the fact that most young women in the Zulu culture go through this on a voluntary basis. So most of the women did not see anything wrong with the bursary scheme itself. One can also argue that it's because they just want education. But also remember, in the cultural ways, the virginity testing comes as a voluntary basis. It comes as something that young girls pride themselves in. So we haven't managed to speak to any of them as they are based in KZN. But as it stands, we did see that none of them actually had a problem with the scheme itself.
Nera Hlakotsa, thank you so much for that update there live from the ANN7 newsroom.